This is the worst decision Prime Minister Carney has ever done, and it will be an absolute disaster.
Mark Carney was indeed right over something I have so frequently mocked him over, and I feel really stupid for it now. But I think instead of mocking him for those words, we should really be paying attention to it now. Doug Ford tore into Sean Fraser in a way that makes me feel happy and equally frustrated. I'm Jasmin Laine. Subscribe, like, follow, and comment your thoughts down below. As always, share this video. And speaking of Carney, he just got slapped in the face by his own appointee. All that and more coming up today on Over Opinionated.
I have a message today for every young man across Canada. Everyone who feels anxious about his future because he works hard and can't get ahead. Everyone who wonders if the struggle is worth it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You are not the problem in this country. In fact, you are a big part of the solution. You deserve better leadership in Canada. You deserve a government that empowers you to live up to your potential. And the reality is that that's not the case right now. You deserve better, and a brighter future is possible. A future where you are valued and encouraged, a future where you are treated like a priority. We need you, and we need you to speak clearly, tell the truth, organize, and be undeniable. We need you to help us restore the North.
Whew, that one has made me so emotional. I do want to let you know that Jamil Jivani is going to be on the show in the near future. But the reason why that made me so emotional is because that right there is the entire reason why I took the biggest risk of my life. I lost my job in mainstream media. I got completely blacklisted from mainstream media outside of a handful of radio shows in Canada and the US who occasionally have me on to discuss politics, was because of that. What Jamil Jivani said there is a conversation that I had so many times with my late boyfriend. Before he left this earth. And I just wish he could have held on longer to hear it from somebody other than me. And of course, that message was met with a lot of backlash from far radical leftists who really just have no empathy or humanity left in them, calling him a proud boy. Saying that he's a real creep for saying this. I completely reject that premise overall, and I really do pray for people who view the world like that, especially when there's things like this that are so real. And personally, I thank Jamil Jivani for saying what he did, saying what so many people need to hear, young men, young women, everybody, and most importantly, reminding them that he sees them, because that's really important. That's really, really important in this world.
How did our country score, Renee? Well, not great, Marcia. Food insecurity and poverty, believe it or not, up by almost 40% nationally over the past 2 years. That is according to Food Banks Canada's National Poverty Report Card, which for 2025 gave Canada's poverty reduction efforts a grade of D. Now, that grade is an average of 3 criteria. You can see them on your screen. Our overall grade is D. For unemployment, which went into that overall grade, we get even worse. We get an F. The report says joblessness is up by 34% since 2023, with youth feeling it the most. Then on food insecurity, another failing grade, with more than a quarter of households struggling to afford food, and that is up from just over 18% in 2023. With visits to food banks up by 90% since 2019, according to Food Banks Canada. So
this report came out just a few days ago, and obviously it's terrible. It's one of the many reasons why when people still vote Liberal, what? How? What are you doing? I wanted to have you just take a listen to how the Liberals are defending this. It's pretty entertaining.
You know, Food Banks Canada does essential work on the front lines, but they also make recommendations for politicians like us for better policies to support Canadians. So I'd put it back on that member. When we had a vote in this House of Commons just not that long ago on a national school food program, he voted against it. Every time we have a policy to support Canadians like $10 a day childcare or dental care, they vote against it. When we bring forward measures to ensure that there's more affordable housing for Canadians Canadians, they vote against it. So if you're going to quote the Food Banks Canada report, please read the report and consider some of their recommendations.
First and foremost, let's clear that up. Food Banks Canada never once mentioned that the Liberals should bring forth a $10 a day childcare. They didn't explicitly demand that a national school food program should be included. They did, however, say, we can credibly say this, that Food Banks Canada included the Liberals' plan with $10 a day childcare, national school food program in its list of promising social tools to reduce poverty. They did not require that being the solution at all. They proposed multiple levers, and that was one that the Liberals had been discussing at the time. And they said, yeah, if this is done right, it could maybe kind of help, possibly. And we have certainly seen the way in which this narrative, this framing has manipulated and just totally brainwashed the population, because somehow it's such a lazy smear. That's why it's so frustrating. Somehow in the Liberals' mind, and they know that this isn't the case either, they just say it because it wins them votes, voting against a specific spending bill, a top-down approach, a one-size-fits-all in a situation where that really doesn't apply. They want to try to convince you that that is the same as opposing feeding kids or supporting families. That's not it at all. That's ridiculous. The real test isn't how you voted. It's, okay, great. Did the program work? The answer, absolutely not. Oh, wow, we were right again. Crazy.
How do they not understand if they'd stop taxing Canadians to death, you wouldn't need the program? After 10 years of the Liberal government's reckless spending, prices of groceries continue to rise. The PM said he'd be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, among Saskatchewan children, 35% live in food-insecure households. When will these Liberals scrap their industrial carbon tax, scrap their second carbon tax, scrap their food packaging taxes so Canadians can afford to feed their own kids?
And ultimately, if you think it's normal for the government to step in ways like they have, you are the problem. You are the problem. Nobody else but you, because you should not be taxed so hard, one of the highest taxed nations, that the government has to step in to cover your dental care. Make that make sense. Inflation caused by their money printing and reckless budgets shouldn't be so bad that they have to feed your kids at school. They do all of these things that destroy us, and then they want us to praise them for, instead of reversing course on all of that, like any normal person would do, they then want to use even more tax dollars to do something to make you more dependent on the government. That is not normal. You should not be so strapped for cash that a government subsidized $10 a day daycare is something that even needs to be swooped in with. If you think that's normal, give your head a shake.
I can confirm he definitely does not know my mother. In fact, my mother knew how to budget better than anyone. She could stretch a dollar farther. In fact, I think she should come in here as the finance minister. We sure wouldn't have a PBO report showing the government adding $1/3 of $1 trillion of extra deficits. We know that every single dollar this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of hard-working Canadians. Why don't they know that?
Ever catch yourself reaching for a bad habit without even thinking? Stress, boredom, sometimes just wanting to fit in. We've all been there. Well, that is where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting, it's about replacing. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device with no vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavors. Instead of chemicals, you get satisfying plant-based flavors like crisp mint, cinnamon hearts, or orange vanilla. It's also built for fidgeting. The premium wooden design feels great in your hand, and the magnetic snaps are surprisingly addictive. Plus, it's sleek, portable, and built to last. Over 500,000 people have already made the switch. So if you're ready to try, now's the time. Because when you order the Fume Journey Pack with my code JasminLaine, you'll get a free Fume topper. Just head to tryfume.com/JasminLaine to get yours today.
That minister is so out of touch because she doesn't understand that those kids still are hungry every evening and every weekend and every summer holiday because their parents can't afford to put food on the table because of this Liberal government's inflationary deficits that are driving up food costs, money printing deficits, plus record high food bank use, plus Canadians skipping meals equal an F for this Liberal government. Will the Liberals vote for our Conservative motion to cut their inflationary taxes on food prices for Canadians today?
No, we won't vote for their motion. We are going to be busy over here putting in place supports for Canadians that he will vote against.
Call me a radical, but I pray the Conservatives continue to vote against all of those harmful policies that the Liberal government plans to implement. All of those things that they lie about. Oh, you're compassionate. Ooh, you're so mean and awful and evil if you're not compassionate about us wanting to have even more control, top-down control. Yeah, you're such a bad person. If you just want to be able to make money and not have the government intervene in every aspect of your life, from your bedroom all the way to your wallet, I pray that more parties start voting against those things. As we can see here, this chart, it's Canada, the industrial implosion, investment in industrial machinery and equipment volumes. And it really does signal something horrifying about what is happening to our country here. Because as we can see, and there's data that coincides with this to show just how much our economy has deteriorated as a result of these changes. For most of the last couple of decades, Canada was on par, at some points even above the United States in these sectors. And you see, around 2015 in particular, it goes from a typical trend in the downward direction that we can see clearly from the 1990s to 2005 even, where we're just a little bit below the U.S., and it actually starts to take a huge plummet in 2015. Funny, isn't it? While the U.S. starts to expand. And if we take a look at the differences in our economies, the U.S. is actually creating more GDP. Canada's not. It's losing it.
Again, how alarming is that for the average Canadian, for the taxpayer? Because there is only one taxpayer, right?
It should be very alarming, right? These are, I don't know, I think I used the words in French, which the translators probably got really well, like stupefying, shocking, right? This is not, like, it's not a funny fiscal outlook. It's a really serious fiscal outlook. And we don't lightly use the word unsustainable, right? Unsustainable means you don't have the option of saying, maybe I'll wait a couple of years, I'll see how things go. It means if you don't change, this is done, right? So it's very serious.
But instead of reversing course in many of the areas that Doug Ford is about to highlight for you, the Liberals just want to waste even more money with stupid stuff that nobody is asking for.
Why doesn't the minister actually go forward and start focusing on bail reform? Why doesn't he start focusing on mandatory sentencing? Why doesn't he focus on Young Offenders Act? There's not one person I've talked to that has said, we want to give the judges, more politically appointed judges, more authority. I haven't heard one person. But he's so bent on going up there, he messed up the immigration, he's messed up housing, now they put him in as Attorney General. He needs to focus on what counts for the people. So yeah, and by the way, let me tell you something, it's not just this premier. It's premiers across the country are on fire. This is the worst decision Prime Minister Carney has ever done, and it will be an absolute disaster. And I don't believe it's going to go through. It just takes Quebec and Ontario to block it. You need 2/3 of the premiers and 50% of the population. So why is he wasting his time? He should get back to work and focus on what areas really, really matter.
What? But according to François-Philippe Champagne, they totally are.
On this side of the house, we're about building the future. We're going to present a budget that's going to build this nation, Mr. Speaker. It's going to be a generational investment in our future. We're going to build a country. We're going to build jobs. We're going to create the opportunities for young people in this country. We're going to build the strongest economy in the G7. And we hope the Conservative will vote for this budget because it's about building our nation, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, I sure hope that they don't, because it's been over a decade now, my guy. Question, you've actually increased our budget. You have been doing generational spending this whole time. And what do we have to show for it? And now you just want us to say, do a little bit more? Yeah, that's not really how that works.
This Prime Minister is more expensive than even Justin Trudeau. Wow. The PBO reports that the deficit is now 2/3 higher than the one Trudeau left behind. Over the next 5 years, this Prime Minister will add an amazing $300 billion of additional inflationary debt, twice what Trudeau would have added, all of which will add to the cost of living for Canadians. Why is it? How is it possible that any Prime Minister could have been more expensive than Trudeau?
I'll tell you how. Because Mark Carney wasn't lying, actually, when he said this is a new Liberal government. He keeps highlighting that. Our new government. New government. We have a mandate. And he wasn't wrong, actually. And as I write on X, I will no longer be tolerating any of the bots or blind followers that claim Canada is okay under this Liberal government. Carney is right when he says it's new. He is for the first time admitting what Justin Trudeau tried to hide and then showed us through his every move. This is new liberalism, not the old center-left that once claimed to balance prosperity with social safety nets. This is an ideological experiment where economics don't matter, where industry is sacrificed to virtue signaling, and where the very foundation of our prosperity is hollowed out in the name of progress. That's why our industrial investment chart looks like this. While America builds, Canada collapses. This is not normal. This is not sustainable. This is not Canadian liberalism as we once knew it. It's something far more reckless and extreme. It is indeed new. And I don't think there's any more validity to that than the fact that Canada was once a really good country. It was. Until this new liberalism started to show its face. And, I really do believe that everything happening with Donald Trump in the U.S. and these tariffs, how it's all been overblown, Mark Carney going on so frickin' many taxpayer-funded, jet-fueled, so much for climate change trips around the globe signals exactly the end result of what's happening here. I don't think I've ever been so embarrassed as a Canadian watching our Prime Minister fly around like a salesman trying to convince other countries to trade with us. Those countries are signing deals with the USA. They're not picking Canada. Industries are leaving Canada for one very specific reason, and that is this new liberalism that isn't working. Trade partners used to come to us because we were competitive, we were stable, we had good ethics, things like that, and we were worth investing in. The Liberals made the business investment a disaster, and then on top of that, told countries like Japan, like Germany, no. And then those countries, because the US heard that and thought, you guys are freaking crazy, and they started building all of these terminals, which Canada refused to. Those countries then moved on. And now we're the ones knocking on doors, begging for a seat at the table because it's not sustainable what they have done. But rather than reverse course, they want to just keep on doing what doesn't work. This isn't leadership. This is pure desperation. And it is humiliating as a citizen of a country that once led the world in opportunity. It's absolutely humiliating.
We're on a better fiscal path than some of our G7 colleagues, and you project our deficit staying under 2% of GDP and debt holding near the low 40% range. Would you agree that these kinds of thresholds are really, in practice, fiscal anchors that signal some discipline?
I would go back to one of the comments I made at the outset that, the most important word in the release this morning was unsustainable. We didn't choose it carelessly. I've been in the office for 17 years. I was working in the federal government putting together budgets for 10 years prior to that. you got to be like, you choose these words with prudence and care. And certainly we don't want to be alarmist. And at the same time, like the current path we're on in terms of federal debt as a share of the economy is unsustainable.
I just can't even fathom, unless you truly are evil, being a government and seeing at every turn when you have implemented policies that have hurt your people, that have hurt your country, that have hurt your reputation, if you're egotistical and you care about that, which presumably people like Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney do, that you would see those things, you would see how the market reacted, and you would keep doing them. There's no other explanation for that other than maliciousness. Something very nefarious is happening here. Because any other country, any other leader would see, oh, shoot, we tried this out. Look at how bad it's really made things terrible. We're sorry. Oops, let's reverse course. But the Liberals don't do that. They just keep doubling down and then adding on even more policy. And, oh, the people are suffering. Great, let's add a new bureaucracy. Let's take more tax dollars from them. That justifies how hard they're taxed, right? Because we're providing all of these programs that our people need. We shouldn't need them. We shouldn't need them. What we do need is a government who's responsible, who can admit a failure, which would be highly respectable, by the way, and reverse course. And we don't have that at all. Why? Why is that? And so, I think the very first step in fixing all of this is waking up to the fact that the old Liberal Party, that old brand, no longer exists. And it hasn't for a long time. And if you have been voting Liberal because you trusted the party that you grew up with, or you remember the Liberal Party of old, I think it's really time for you to ask yourself, does this government still share my values? Do I approve of this? Is my life better, or has it left me behind? Because I think the vast majority of Canadians, judging by even, the food report, the food banks report, I think the vast majority of Canadians have been left behind. And they keep voting in this way because it's what they're used to. And you're a lifelong Liberal. You don't actually even care. You just vote for the Liberal Party because that's what I've always done. I'm a Liberal because I'm a good person, and I'm a good person because I'm a Liberal. That isn't working. It's driving us into the ground. This isn't even about being left or right. This is just about being right or wrong. And the direction that we're headed in right now is horrifically wrong. So something to think about there. I'm Jasmin Laine. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really does help this channel grow and get more eyes and ears on it. And if you don't like me, subscribe to another creator doing the same things that I am on here. Give your support wherever you can, because there's a lot against conservative commentary, especially on platforms like Google and just on the internet in Canada, which is also heavily regulated and controlled by the federal government and unelected bureaucracies. So that means an awful lot. Like this video, comment your thoughts down below, share it, and I will talk to you tomorrow.